we always start our meetings with the Indigenous land acknowledgement. We want to start the meeting with our acknowledgement, which is now available on our chapter website. In the DFW area, we are standing and living on the lands stolen from the Kickapoo, Wichita, Tawakoni, Jumanos, and Comanche people who have been harmed, yet continue to thrive in the process of colonization and white supremacy. I encourage all of us to go to nativeland.ca and educate ourselves on these Native communities. And then I guess I'll go on to read the ground rules. We have a community ground rules we always like to remind everybody of. Make space or take space to talk, which means 2 minutes each at the most per round. Speak from the I perspective instead of generalizing. Practice active listening and seek to understand. Assume good intentions. Respect one another's space, time, and interest. Be willing to be uncomfortable. Be open to productive discomfort. Intent does not negate impact. Disagree without discord. Personal attacks and labeling have no place in our chapter, and accept there is no quick fix. Thank you all. We have a very civilized group. I never really feel we need to say this, but I think it's great that we do anyway. Except for that mic. Sometimes he can be really caustic, but no, just kidding, just kidding. All right, so introductions. Lisa, did you introduce yourself last time? Maybe I missed that meeting. I don't remember.
I thought I did.
Okay, I apologize. I think I missed the last one. But thank you for being our new secretary or note taker, whatever it's called.
You're welcome. Pleasure. I'm learning.
Yeah, we all are. Okay. So Mike, did you say you would facilitate or?
No, Jayashri was going to facilitate, but since we're in the intros, I just want to say hi, everybody. I'm back in Texas, and thank you for bearing with me through my long winter, we'll call it, and excited to take part in Dallas politics and environmental actions. So we'll see what we can do for 2025. I just want to thank you, Jan, and everybody for from Earth Day and moving forward. I think it's been amazing to have you on board in your position, Jan, and I just wanted to shout you out. So.
Shucks, thank you so much. I'm excited about it. And I'm learning the hard way, including like, oh, I was supposed to do the agenda. Oh, okay. It was kind of like so organized that we pulled it off. Jayashri has been very patient with me. So thank you, Mike. And I'm glad you're back. I'm so sorry for your loss. We did miss you. We were all thinking of you. And give yourself time,
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to ask everyone, all the executive committee members who are here to introduce themselves. I'll go with me. I'm also co-chair with Mike for this group for this year. I have been a treasurer before. I was trained in 2017 with Al Gore. And so ever since I've been part of this member, I know many members have moved away, but thank God for putting us back together. Slowly, we have all contributed, so we should give ourselves a pat on the back for bringing the group back together. Who's the next one? I can see Chip. Once you're finished drinking, can you introduce yourself, Chip?
Sure. Hi, Jayashri, and everybody. I'm sorry I'm going to put my camera off because I'm eating some great Indian food, Jayashri. You would appreciate that. And by the way, if anyone hasn't tried Simply South, one of the top 50 restaurants in the New York Times estimation, it's right there in Irving, and it's fantastic as well. Just a little hard to get in or a long way. I'm Chip Pitts. I'm a member of our executive committee, member at large, and it's good to be with y'all. This is an important time. It's a challenging time as we see what's happening now. It's even worse than we anticipated in many ways. So it's vital for us to stick together, brainstorm, strategize, and we are coming up with the new strategy. I'm going to be assisting Mike on that, so I'm looking forward to that as well. And I'll pass it over to Jeffrey, our poet laureate.
Yes, I first joined when we went on Zoom, I guess, during COVID, and I've only met, let's see, of you folks, only Jay Cherie is the only one that I was at that one meeting we had in Fort Worth. I live in Fort Worth. I've been focused primarily on helping people to deal with their grief over everything that's going on climate-wise and otherwise. So I will pass it over to Jan.
Hey there. I wasn't quite sure where everybody lives. I'm glad you said that, Jeffrey. Okay, anyway, my name is Jan Falcona. I've been with this group, I guess, since 2018. I did the training online, but then I was fortunate to be laid off last spring, just in time to go to the training in New York, which was so awesome and really motivating. So it's made me inspired to do a little more. So I finally took the leap to do a role like this, which is events chair. Please bear with me while I figure out what we're doing. I'm happy to report my new job is in the solar industry. So that's been a dream come true, and I'm having a blast working really hard, and I'm a technical writer. So my company is Solark up in Allen. So local company. We just today got an email from our company president about some bills pending in Congress that might reduce some of the affordability of, the solar energy investments. They're trying to strip away some of that. So he was like, please put this out there. Anyway, it's nice to be in that milieu, for my actual job. And I'm going to be spending a lot of time in Fort Worth the next weekend because I'm going to the Van Cliburn Piano Festival, which I'm a real big fan of. And it's a wonderful opportunity. If anybody has any free time, you must go. It's only once every 4 years. That's my off the record plug. So anyway, great to be here. Being with all of you is so encouraging. We all need that. And that's all I have to say. And I guess, has everybody introduced themselves? Or Mike, have you did? So maybe we're up to Ann. Unless you want to wait till it's your turn to give your speech.
I can just wait. Thanks.
Okay, awesome. Okay, one more thing I probably should have said up front. We've all kind of talked in email, or most of us have talked in email. Everybody agrees 10 o'clock Saturday mornings, third Saturday of the month is probably going to be a better option. So we're going to start that next month and see how it goes. And we can send out a little email blast after this meeting to let everybody know. But I think all the leaders who were involved in the discussion agreed on that. So, and some of them can literally not be here, even though they're in our executive leadership team, because this time is so bad. So bear with us. It is nice we can record it and everybody can see Ann's presentation later. So that is all from me.
So it's 7:15 already. Shall we go ahead since there's no more people to be introduced? You want to go ahead and introduce Ann, Jan?
Yes, absolutely. I'm so excited that Ann could join us. I saw her speak and give a similar talk at the Feds, the Funky East Dallas Democrats meeting a few months ago. And I knew that we could apply a lot of her wisdom and information to our quest. So Ann is a volunteer who serves in the North Texas chapter as a leader for American Promise. She's a native of Dallas, earned an undergraduate degree in business and history and a law degree from SMU. Ann gave up law practice many years ago to focus on her family and volunteer work. And in addition to her work with American Promise Ann has been a volunteer with the Citizens Climate Lobby for 10 years. She has a husband, David, who still practices law, and they relocated from North Dallas to Uptown 8 years ago so they could enjoy the walkable urban lifestyle. And we're so pleased to have you, Ann. Thank you, and take it away.
All right. Thank you, Jan. Thank you, Climate Reality, for letting me speak tonight. I'm excited to talk to fellow climate activists. Let me share my screen, so give me just a moment here. Okay, I know I can do this. Here we go. Share sound. That's what I got to remember to do. Okay, so let's go to the slideshow. So I think now you guys should see my main screen. So my name's Ann Drumm. I'm in Uptown, and I am the North Texas chapter leader for American Promise, a national nonpartisan organization committed to restoring the people's voice in government by addressing the corrupting influence of money in American politics. Political spending by wealthy special interests is drowning out the voices of ordinary Americans. But I am here tonight with good news, that fixing this problem is an opportunity to bring Americans together. That Americans across the political spectrum want to solve this problem, and that solving it can help us make headway on issues that we care about, like climate change. So I want to explore the opportunity that we have to do historic good for our country. Last year, the Pew Research Center asked Americans how they feel about politics, and these were some of the responses they got back. Words like divisive, corrupt, messy, polarized, chaos, you get the picture. Americans have lost faith with politics and our political process. Now, when the founders set up our government, they did something revolutionary. It was the first time that anyone had established a system of government based on the idea of popular sovereignty, the idea that the people are the legitimate source of the government's power and authority. And they decided to implement that idea of popular sovereignty through a republic with a scheme of representation. So the core factor in our republic is this representation, this relationship between constituents and the lawmakers who represent them in government. And this is a sacrosanct relationship. But we have evolved a system where non-constituent donors, super PACs, dark money groups from outside the district, outside the state, even outside the country, are now competing with constituents for the attention and the vote of their representatives. This money is undermining the relationship between constituents and their representatives. And when money weakens this relationship, then people become cynical and disaffected, and they quit participating in the political process because they look at the system and they shrug their shoulders and they think, what difference does my participation, my voice make? Because my representatives aren't listening to me. So money has a grip on our political system, and money's grip on our system is now becoming a threat to democracy. And we found some interesting polling out of the Hobby School of Public Affairs at the University of Houston last year that found that 9 out of 10 Texas voters agree that the influence of money in politics poses a threat to democracy. And one of the things I want to draw your attention to is 9 out of 10 voters means that's not all just Democrats, or it's not all just Republicans. This is voters across the political spectrum. A lot of the money in our system is spent by outside groups rather than by campaigns. And in the last political cycle, the 2024 cycle, about $4.5 billion or about 28% of the money that was spent in federal elections was spent by these outside groups, by the super PACs and dark money groups. And about half of that was spent by groups that are not required to disclose their donors, the dark money groups. So let's consider how all of this affects public policy. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce recently told the administration that small businesses need relief from the tariffs, that they do not have the financial capacity to pay the tariffs on the imported goods that they need to buy in order to keep their businesses viable. Or, consider the budget cuts that have been made without any input from Congress. Now, I'm not here to take a position on tariffs or budget cuts. The point I want to make is that Congress has the responsibility, the authority to legislate in these areas. The Congress has ceded its authority to the executive branch. And we assert that one of the reasons Congress has done this is because of the influence of money in politics. Members of the U.S. House are constantly running for re-election. A third of the U.S. Senate is up for re-election every year. You may have seen a few weeks ago the news that Senator Lisa Murkowski admitted to an Alaska audience that senators are afraid. They are afraid of retaliation if they exercise their authority. This is not what the founders had in mind when they established a system with 3 co-equal branches of government. We need to restore the balance that the founders envisioned by addressing the outsized power that the court has allowed all of this money to amass. So let's talk about dark money, that political spending where the source of the money is not disclosed. Say you've got some money to spend in politics, but you don't want the public to know that you are the source of the money. What do? You give the money to one of these so-called social welfare nonprofits that are established under Section 501c of the Internal Revenue Code. These are the dark money groups. So let me give you an example of how this can play out. Let's say we've got an ordinary citizen. He's got a little bit of money to spend on politics. So let's examine what he can do. He can spend up to $3,500 in federal campaigns, so campaigns for Congress or the president. He can also give up to $5,000 to a traditional political action committee. Very likely that would be the corporate PAC established by his employer. Now, understand the vast majority of Americans don't have anywhere near this much money to spend on politics. But the point is, there are limits to what this ordinary citizen can do. Now, let's say we have a wealthy individual. I like to call him Mr. Moneybags. Let's look at what he can do. He can do the same things that our ordinary citizen can do, subject to the same limits. But he can do a lot more. He can give as much money as he wants to as many super PACs as he wants. And now the super PACs do disclose their donors. But Mr. Moneybags can also give as much money as he wants to as many dark money groups as he wants. And those groups do not disclose their donors. He can also just spend money buying social media or radio or TV or newspaper ads to his heart's content. No limits at all. And it's worth pointing out that these opportunities that are available to Mr. Moneybags are also available to corporations, unions, LLCs, and other artificial entities. So dark money groups, those are the vehicle through which foreign actors spend money to influence U.S. elections. Now, you probably know that it is illegal for foreign individuals or corporations or governments to donate directly to U.S. campaigns, but it is perfectly legal for them to donate to these dark money groups. They give as much as they want. And then the dark money groups shuffle the money around between themselves and the super PACs in complicated ways that are designed to obscure the source and the agenda behind the money. American Promise put out a report last year about foreign influence in US elections and noted a report by the ODNI, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, talking about spending by Chinese, Russian, and Iranian interests to influence US politics. And of course, we also know by the January 6th report about the spending by Russia. So this foreign money in US politics is a problem that has the attention and concern of lawmakers on both sides of the aisle. So how do we get here? It has not always been like this. In the early 20th century, as a result of Gilded Age corruption, a number of states passed common sense campaign finance legislation intended to rein in the power of the industry titans who had too much influence over lawmakers. However, in about the last 50 years, the US Supreme Court, in a series of decisions, has dismantled these laws that were intended to protect the people's voice in government. And it started with a case in 1976 called Buckley versus Vallejo. And this is the case where the Supreme Court told us that political spending or money is speech. And because we protect speech under the First Amendment, it decided that lawmakers do not have the power to limit the raising and spending of money to influence our elections. But the court was wrong. Money isn't speech. Money is power. And when you give certain people disproportionate political power just because they have more money, then you are undermining the whole concept that the founders had of a republic with a scheme of representation based on the idea of popular sovereignty. But let's assume, for sake of argument, that you're not with me yet and you still think money is speech. Let me give you an example. Let's say an ordinary citizen has $100 to spend on politics, but Mr. Moneybags has $100 million to spend on politics. And we know there are people who have this much money to spend on politics because we saw them spend it in the last election cycle. We simply stand for the proposition that lawmakers should have the power to declare that Mr. Moneybags' speech should not be 1,000,000 times louder than an ordinary citizen's speech. So this crisis of money in politics is a call to citizenship, a call to action, and we have a solution. And at American Promise, we are advocating for the 4-hour freedom constitutional amendment that will restore the power of Americans to regulate election spending so that we can protect our freedom, have our voices heard, and participate as equal citizens in our government. The amendment is very short. It is only 3 paragraphs, and the operative language is in section 2. Nothing in this Constitution shall be construed to forbid Congress or the states within their respective jurisdictions from reasonably regulating and limiting contributions and spending in campaigns, elections, or ballot measures. So it's important to note that we are not advancing model legislation. We do not have a statute that we want Congress and all the states to adopt. We simply want to get campaign finance legislation out of the courts and return it to the houses of, to the legislative branches where we think it belongs. Remove the obstacle that the Supreme Court has put in place with this line of cases and give Congress the power to write legislation pertaining to federal elections and give state legislatures like Texas the power to write legislation pertaining to state elections. Now, one of the things that makes us optimistic that we can do this is we have the American public behind us. I don't, and I've got some polling that is specific to Texas. I don't think it's going to surprise you that in Texas, almost 77% of Democrats support a constitutional amendment to allow Congress and states to reasonably regulate and limit money in campaigns and elections. It might surprise you that about 75% of Texas Republicans agree with the Democrats, and about 77% of Texas independents agree. So the good news is, this is not one of those issues that Republicans and Democrats need to fight about. Republicans and Democrats agree about this. So our advocacy challenge is to persuade lawmakers to change the rules of the game. And we are doing that through grassroots activism around the country. And so far, since the big decision, the original decision was Buckley versus Vallejo in '76, but then Citizens United in 2010 is really the decision more people are familiar with. That's the one that opened the floodgates to the money. Since 2010, 23 states have signaled to Congress that they want Congress to pass a constitutional amendment and send it to the states for ratification. And some states have done this through a resolution that has been passed by the state legislature. Other states have done this through an initiative and referendum process where citizens vote at the ballot box. The most recent state to send this signal to Congress was Utah, which did it a few months ago. And Utah is a ruby red conservative state. And then just a few weeks ago, the Oklahoma House of Representatives also sent a signal to Congress by passing a resolution. So now we're waiting to see if the Oklahoma Senate does the same thing. And in Texas, we have a resolution in the current legislature. It was introduced first in the Senate. It's SCR 28, introduced by Senator Angela Paxton, Republican from Collin County. And then the companion resolution is HCR 79, introduced in the House by Representative Terry Leo Wilson out of Galveston with 3 Republican co-sponsors. We are seeking support first from Republicans. Our strategy is a right to left strategy. We're building to support from Republicans. We will worry later about getting support from Democrats. Since this legislative session is about over, this resolution is not going to pass this session, but during the legislative interim, we will be having meetings with members of the State House and the State Senate. It will be reintroduced in the 2027 legislative session as we do the work of getting Texas ready to ratify this constitutional amendment. And I just want to show you a brief video about the lobby day we had in Austin on April 3rd.
We are so excited to be here today at the Texas State Capitol with dozens of grassroots activists from all over the state with one clear message for our lawmakers. It is time to ban foreign money in our elections.
We're sick and tired of having outside foreign money coming in. We're sick and tired of not being represented with our voice in our elections, and we need some financial election integrity in order to stop it.
There is one way for us to accomplish that, the For Our Freedom Amendment. Right now in Texas, we have a resolution in both the Senate and the House that will take the necessary steps for Texans to decide how much money can be spent in our elections, including zero from foreign governments.
Once Texas moves, the country moves.
If you're a Texan who wants to stand up for our constitutional right to protect and defend our democracy from foreign adversaries and from foreign dollars, join us in supporting the For Our Freedom Amendment. You can learn more. Join us now.
So in our right to left strategy, we have been building support among the state Republican Executive Committee. This is the governing body for the state Republican Party. It's got 2 members from each Senate district around the state. We now have a majority of the members of the state Republican Executive Committee who have told us they are on board, that they support this. And once we get a resolution from the state Republican Executive Committee, we have friends on the state Democratic Executive Committee who are going to help us get a resolution out of that body so that we can demonstrate the bipartisan support among grassroots leadership in this state. We also have support from private sector leaders from organizations like Rotary Club and Chambers of Commerce. And one of these, Jeff Kittner, is the North Dallas Chamber of Commerce CEO, who gave us an endorsement after we spoke to that organization a couple of years ago. Also, Ed Fjordback from the Park Cities Rotary gave us an endorsement after I spoke to that group. So we are continuing to build our support among private sector leaders. So if you are interested in helping us, a couple of things you can do. First of all, go to americanpromise.net/pledge and take the citizen pledge. It's just a way for you to affirm that you are a citizen who believes this is worth doing. I also will invite you, and I'm going to put a message, I'm going to put my contact information in the chat. If you are interested in getting on my email list, we have a chapter meeting once a month. Unfortunately, our chapter meeting is also on the 3rd Wednesday. Matt Howerton is leading our chapter meeting as I speak to y'all this evening. But there are other things, even if you don't come to our chapter meetings, we are going to be having meetings with members of the legislature over the legislative interim, and I'd be very interested in y'all joining us, help us get and participate in those meetings. So if you're interested in what we are doing, shoot me an email. I put my email address in the chat, or give me a call. My phone number is there as well. And I just want to conclude by saying, I am a fellow climate activist. I've been active with Citizens Climate Lobby now for 10 years. And I've been to many meetings with legislators as a CCL activist. I've done a lot of public speaking for CCL. And a few years ago, I just started wondering why it was so hard for good climate policy to get traction among lawmakers. And I started diving into this question of money in politics. And that's when I decided I had to do this advocacy. So I am still an activist with CCL. In fact, I spent the first week in April in Austin because we had CCL's Lobby Day on April 1st, and then 2 days later, we had American Promise's Lobby Day. I wear both advocacy hats. I think it is important to work on both of these issues simultaneously. But I absolutely believe that if we can get a handle on the power of the money that is inhibiting good climate policy, then we will have a better chance of getting the climate policy that we support through Congress and state legislatures. So that is why I do this advocacy. So I want to just say thank y'all very much for the opportunity to speak. I hope we have a few minutes for some conversation. So who's got a question, comments?
Ann, thank you. Yeah, I was actually wondering if you have any more stats about the influence on the fossil fuel issues. Even that issue I mentioned, my company president today talked about, everything in the guidance on that was just like, we need security for families. We need a grid, secure infrastructure. There wasn't even a mention of climate change, to preserve the ability of people to get, funding and to keep stable sources of solar and alternative power. Like, why are we shying away from that so much? And anyway, I just wonder if you have any wisdom about or stats on what all the fossil fuel industry is doing to corrupt all of our representatives.
So there's an unwritten rule at the state legislature: thou shalt not talk about climate change. And I don't know if you followed any of the bad climate bills, the anti-renewable energy bills that were introduced this session. Fortunately, knock on wood, the session isn't over yet, but it appears that the worst of the bills are not going to make it through. We're watching them, and we've been mobilizing CCL volunteers to make our voices heard against them. There are powerful moneyed interests in this state who do not want to see the kind of climate policy that we want to see. And I think it has to do with the fact that particularly solar and battery storage have really taken off and are I get a lot of my data from Doug Lewin, and DougLewin.com. If you guys are not familiar with him, you should be. I'm going to put it in the chat. Go to DougLewin.com. He said that in 2-year period, the recent 2-year period ending, I don't know the exact dates, but recent 2-year measurement, that 44 megawatts of power were put on the grid, and 90% of it was renewable or battery storage. And most of what's in the ERCOT queue is renewables and storage. Another thing we're seeing is the Texas Energy Fund, which is this fund that the legislature created last session, billions of dollars that renewables and storage are not allowed to participate in. So it's basically a fund to incent the construction of natural gas generation. That money is not resulting in the construction of natural gas generation plants. And I think there's a couple of reasons. Is one, because the renewables and storage they're cheaper. It's just cheaper power on the grid. They're cost competitive, finally. The other problem is the supply chain problems with the natural gas equipment. And so even if you want to build a natural gas generation plant, you're going to have to wait a few years to get the key equipment that you need to get it online. So this rapid growth of renewables and storage is a threat to fossil fuel industries. And I think the money is trying to slow down the progress of renewables, and that's why we saw some of the bad legislation we saw this session.
What really bothers me about that is that in my company, solar industry, plenty of our customers are right-wing Republicans. We have preppers. We have people off the grid. And it's not like it's a left or right thing for people who want to get renewable energy in their homes. So it doesn't even make sense. Anyway, we all know that.
Yeah. Well, look at whose business model is threatened.
100%.
And I was wondering, can I ask if can you just touch on super PAC versus a dark money group? Like if somebody has that $100 million, they start with the dark money group and then the dark money distributes it in other ways. Like, can you help that explanation a little bit?
So a traditional PAC, like a corporate PAC, has pretty strict limitations on how much how much somebody can give to it and how much they can donate to a campaign. The traditional PACs have been overtaken by the super PACs. And this is a consequence of Citizens United and a DC Circuit case that followed on the heels of Citizens United. So whether somebody decides to give to a super PAC or a 501c4, I probably the primary factor that goes into that decision is whether they want to stay anonymous or whether they're willing to be known as the source of that money. Now, in Texas, because we're one of a small handful of states that doesn't have limits on campaign contributions, they really don't even have to bother with the super PACs. They just give directly to the politicians.
Okay, so super PACs are a way to hide your name and your donation amount.
You can't hide your name with a super PAC. If you give to a super PAC,
Okay.
your name's going to get disclosed. But if you give to a dark money group, your name isn't disclosed.
Okay.
So those groups are just created under different statutory authorities.
Okay.
Super PACs are created under the Federal Elections Code. Dark money groups, these 501c4s, are created under the Internal Revenue Code. So, if Texas wanted to put limits on campaign contributions, it could. The lack of limits in Texas is not a problem of constitutional law. It's a problem of political will. And so you have, examples like Pennsylvania billionaire giving $10 million directly to the governor to prosecute his war against sitting members of the state legislature. But in most other states, that billionaire would give the money to a super PAC or a dark money group, and then those independent organizations would spend the money to influence campaigns. So those independent organizations, they're not giving money to the campaigns, they're spending money independently. And one of the things that happens is that money hangs over lawmakers like as a threat. And particularly the dark money that fuels so much of the toxic negative advertising. If you're running for office, you might get hit very late in the campaign with an onslaught of negative advertising that's paid for by a dark money group telling all sorts of lies about you. And you're in a position where you can't raise the resources to respond effectively before voters start voting. That's one of the dangers of all this money. And so as a consequence, what it does is it forces lawmakers to spend enormous amounts of time fundraising for re-election because they feel like they have to build up their campaign accounts as much as possible to be prepared for whatever is coming at them that they can't anticipate. And then what that means is lawmakers spend half of their time raising money instead of actually doing their jobs.
Thank you.
Chip.
Hi, Ann. Good to see you, and thank you for doing this. Tell David
Thank you.
hello.
Will do.
I really commend you for all you've done, including in this area, the longstanding environmental activism, but also this is a foundational issue, like, the misinformation and disinformation that's been aggravated by social media and increasingly artificial intelligence that's about to be amplified even further. I guess my question, I think the basic strategy is sound. It's simple, it's understandable. It truly is a bipartisan issue, but so is the environment, and that's been polarized. If you have any reflections on why and how that's so, and this issue still retains, sort of a bipartisan interest, I'd be curious. But my question is really about the context for the advocacy and the way, in a sense, everything's changing right now. The separation of powers. I'm not even sure if that would win before this Supreme Court because they've exhibited, including some local billionaire financed from here in DFW, pretty massive corruption, right? And then you've also got total destruction of our anti-corruption infrastructure, you know, either the laws or the enforcement of the laws in every way imaginable, both foreign and domestic. So the foreign influence is visibly being undermined in a very serious way. And whether that advocacy will succeed or not among the primary targets, you know, the people and the legislators, state and federally, will depend on what that normative context is. And if corruption, you know, becomes, you know, it's like in game theory, you can inject cheaters and that can change the whole system, as it has in certain countries that we are now tending toward, you know, those countries that are like petrostate kleptocracies, you know. And so I'm just wondering, you know, what your real assessment is, your frank assessment about whether there'll be continued success, you know, beyond the 23 that are already there on the national level, uh, in, you know, in really having a realistic prospect to get this amendment passed? And, you know, if so, what are the real nuanced levers that can make that more realistic in light of these emerging new obstacles that are pretty dire? I mean, they're changing the landscape of our country. The founders assumed a level of civic virtue. Republicanism itself does. And I think we're really at risk of losing a lot of that when the former leadership trait cross-culturally, which was honesty, is now being so exponentially undermined.
So let me distill down what I think you're asking.
Okay.
You know,
That's always a challenge with me. Everybody.
Kind of like what gives me hope that this is actually doable, and what are some of the arguments that we think actually have impact with lawmakers to change the rules of the game. First of all, I wouldn't do this if I didn't think it was doable, and I think if we can get our resolution passed through the Texas legislature, that is an enormous tipping point for a big conservative state like Texas to tell Congress, you need to fix this. And so some of the arguments that I think are really resonating with lawmakers, first of all, the foreign money. So you saw that in the video. When we were down in Austin on April 3rd, we were talking to lawmakers about foreign money in Texas politics. And there is foreign money being used to benefit politicians from both sides of the political aisle. This is not a partisan problem, it's a systemic problem, and it needs a systemic solution. So the problem of foreign money, lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are concerned about it. I will tell you, lawmakers don't run for office because they want to become telemarketers for re-election. They hate all the fundraising. And all this money is doing is just increasing the pressure on them to spend more and more time fundraising. And nobody complains about it more loudly than people who have left office and are free to bellyache about how much they hated all the fundraising. So that is a problem, you know, we're pointing out. When you look at the graphs showing the growth in money in politics, I only showed one graph from Open Secrets, but you know, you can show all kinds of graphs where the curves just go like this. They just go dramatically up. We're making the point, there's no break. Okay, there's nothing in the system to stop that dramatic upward trajectory until we give lawmakers the tools to stop it. And so the idea that we need to have some kind of a break to restore the power of lawmakers, to rein it in and put some limits around it, I think that is a compelling argument. You know, the Republicans that I have talked to about this overwhelmingly see the problem of money in politics as an issue of corruption. And they are angry about it. They don't like corruption. They feel like the money corrupts lawmakers and it corrupts the system. And that's why, I have talked to a lot of grassroots Republican volunteers, like precinct chairs, who they're on board with this. And, they want to stop the corruption. They want to stop the foreign influence. They want lawmakers to actually be responsive to their constituents instead of just responsive to their donors. And so I actually think we do have a pretty good chance of getting this system changed, and enough that I'm willing to spend a lot of time working on it.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else? All right. Well, I appreciate.
I
Yeah.
have a question, although it comes from my not knowledge of enough knowledge about American politics. Because I don't know the details, that's why I generally hesitate to ask, but I'm curious. I've always heard that there are countries that who have lobbyists in the Congress and Senate. I always wondered, even when I was new to this country before I became a citizen, how does this one country allow other countries to decide what should happen in that country? Like lobbyists from other countries influencing what America should be doing. Not its people for whom the government works, supposed to work, but lobbyists who pay. I don't know how this system works. I'm sure you'll know better. So is there some law that allows them to do this?
Well, I think if you wanted a law that prevents say a government of another country from hiring lobbyists to advocate a position that it wants to see Congress or legislature take, then we're going to have this amendment. Because I think right now, we probably don't have the constitutional power to restrict the voices of those interests. And the reason I say that, in the state of Maine, there was a referendum passed. It was at the ballot box. It was a law that would prohibit interest controlled by foreign governments, and the government at issue here was the Canadian government. So it was a law that voters approved with 86% of the vote that would prohibit interest controlled by the Canadian government from spending money to influence Maine elections and ballot measures. Voters overwhelmingly said, yeah, we're for that. And then the entities that are controlled by the Canadian government went to court and got an injunction against the enforcement of that new law approved by voters, claiming that they have a constitutional speech right to influence Maine elections. And so that litigation is ongoing. But I think right now it's an open question to what extent the Supreme Court is going to say that foreign interests have a speech right under the First Amendment. And I think if we want to be really clear that we have the power to restrict the political spending of foreign interests, then we've got to have this constitutional amendment.
So it's actually manipulating the actual laws for the benefit of American people, the First Amendment, to misuse by other governments.
They're using the power of their money to influence policy in the U.S. Absolutely.
I can see that. And that's why I asked that question. Like, how does a government allow other countries to determine whatever it is in this such a big influential country, and it's all legal? I mean, I'm like mind boggling. Thank you, though.
Thank y'all.
Yeah, and let's be sure to share the links to American Promise so we can all get the information and contact our representatives. I guess that's the next step is all of us lobby our, people who are
So I would say the next step is reach out to me. Let me get you on the email list. Tell me whose district you live in. So not only who represents you in Congress, but who represents you in the state house and the state Senate. Because what I would be interested in doing is involving you in the process of meeting with legislators during the interim. So we do have I can also send you a link. I mean, we have a petition you can sign, but right now the task is not trying to get your signature on stuff so much as it is, let me know if you are interested in helping with the advocacy when we do meet with lawmakers. Because I think that is our task really for the next year and a half is building up our relationships with state lawmakers and preparing the ground for the resolution next session to go further than it went this session. Although I will also say, if you can help connect me to other groups that would like to have a presentation on this topic, I'm really grateful for introductions, or if you know people that you think might be interested in hearing about this, who might sit down and have a cup of coffee with me. I do a lot of networking as an educational matter, just helping people understand the nature of the problem and why it requires a constitutional solution. Also, I think we're ready to start building up a presence in the greater Houston area. If you've got any connections down there, I would love to talk to y'all because we've got a handful of volunteers down there. I think we need to try to get them into a nucleus to focus on some advocacy, because there are a lot of state lawmakers in the greater Houston area, lots and lots of them. So anyway, if you're interested in any of that kind of stuff, please reach out to me, give me a call or shoot me an email and let's talk.
Thank you so much, Ann.
All right. Thank y'all very much. Really appreciate the opportunity tonight.
Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye.
Oh, we could talk all night about that. Juicy. So Ann has signed off, so it's just us, and I see our friend Patricio has signed on. Hi, Patricio. Came on late, but you heard hopefully most of the presentation. He's really shy.
Patricia?
Watching the Stars game. That's what's going on. Just kidding. Okay.
Maybe, yeah. So yeah, that was a great presentation. I really liked it. Very informative.
It's encouraging that something at least is bipartisan. That's kind of shocking to me, but good news that everybody agrees on something.
Okay, what's
I'm
next
sorry,
on the
I was
agenda?
biking. That's why I couldn't speak, but I listened. I didn't want to miss.
Good.
Multitasking, very nice.
It was very nice. Thanks for arranging all these meetings. That was great.
Welcome.
And it's good to see everybody else.
Good to see you too.
Yeah, Jeffrey, how you doing?
Thank you for joining us.
Come on, keep going.
That's great. Thank you for joining us.
Of course.
Yeah. Okay, so we're a little bit behind, so I think we're up for committee reports next. Oh, and I think I'm supposed to read this because Lauren and Paula could not be here. Paula gave me the report on our White Rock Lake cleanup, May 10th. It was awesome. We had 8 volunteers. We had 8 big bags of trash and debris that we picked up along the shores of White Rock Lake. And it was a pretty cool day to be there because the second Saturday of the month is the community cleanup day. I don't know if that was a coincidence or not, but there were a lot of other groups out there. And I found that very encouraging and uplifting. So if you ever go out there and take a look at beautiful lake, there is trash and debris, and we all just need to pitch in and help. And so many people, when I was walking around with my little bag, people on their bikes or walking their dog, they were thanking me. It was very nice. And I figure every time we set a good example that, people will think twice about littering. And also we were all representing with our climate reality t-shirt. So I really hope we can do this again. And Paula wanted to ask if anybody has ideas of other areas where we could do some kind of beautification effort. We're open to suggestions because we want to do more community service like that. So you could talk to me or any of the executive group, which we all mostly are on the executive group. Okay, that was one. And Jayashree, did you want to talk about the website? Jigs also could not be here.
Yeah, so the website is in the process of being shifted over. Jigs is doing the best she can, and so I checked the website. The so-called what has been transferred is okay, but I would like all the executive committee members to really get together and decide what is now irrelevant or can be archived and what can remain as like a showcasing our work. So I can say what I like. I told her that. I think Chips has told her, but as a group, maybe Chip thought, okay, this is not important, but when we discuss it, maybe it is important, or maybe it showcases something, or I said something that should be moved, but you guys think. So that's why I prefer, that's why the job is of the executive committee, not single person deciding what to do or dictating, but all of us as a group for the benefit of all. So let's all pledge to be at least attend the meeting, executive members, at least some important meetings, some chapter meetings, and the executive meeting, of course. Like we should have at least every 2 months or 3 months, one. What do you say, Mike?
I'd say right now, maybe every 2 months, every other month. But as long
Later
as
on,
we are
once,
keeping the email communications going, I think that is very helpful. So we don't
yeah, once
necessarily.
we are fixed, agreed. Second thing, so she has done a good job, and as she has asked for new members for their recent photos, if they want to change, if they had the photos as executive members, if they want to change, they can send her a up-to-date photo. Jeffrey, are you on the website for, you were conducting that self care group or something? Are you still conducting that group?
Oh, the last few things I've tried to do with it, nobody has showed up. So
Yeah,
I would
that's
say,
the.
I would say that it's defunct.
I mean, defunct, not defunct, it's seized for the moment. It's dormant, but I hope we can bring it up to life once we increase our like attendance. We are working on that, and we would love your help and your insight into this. So do please play an active role at this time to get our membership like attendance increased and all these groups to be resurgent. Like we will have, though so many groups have gone dormant. Then other things about the website, she does want everyone's feedback, and we will decide on it when we have that executive committee meeting. That's all she has for now, and we need to do everything before 26 May 26, she said, because we have paid extra for this month for Wix. By the time she has to change everything, move everything, and she needs emails of former blog posters, those who have written blogs before. So she has ours, but those who have, so I do have Roger's, I think it was Gmail that I had. I don't have others. I might have Leah Mars. I'll send her those. But Chip, you have connection with so many of them, don't you?
I don't have the current emails because I've been a victim of identity theft and
Oh.
hacking. I don't know if you knew that,
Oh,
but last
no.
No,
Yeah.
I did. I forgot about that. That you
it
lost
happens
everything.
periodically, but I had a huge data loss last November, so I'm afraid I
Oh, so
don't.
you lost all those. Okay.
I
So
I
lost
I'll
might have,
try.
I have a few, Jayashree. I'll look to see what we can.
Yeah. So can you check the list she has sent me? I'll share it. I think you have access to it.
Yes.
And we should provide her all this by May 6th. Remember, that's important date. Yes, Chip.
May 26th.
I would just suggest before contacting them that we do have at least some, agreement, as you suggested, Jayashri, on basic criteria. I mean, this is an opportunity for a streamlined new start for the website.
Agreed.
And so I think, when I was looking at some of the sample blog posts, when she asked for suggestions, my main comment with regard to them is that again, the whole environment has changed dramatically. And so a lot of the stuff, certainly stuff that's years old, I would definitely not include that. Personally, I think, we don't want prospective members or active members to have to wade through a lot of outdated, irrelevant clutter that was based on, whether we can maybe pass something like the IRA. And now that the IRA is being gutted, I mean, completely.
Complete.
We really, I think that we just need to refocus on the strategy ideally. So I would keep very few of the old, certainly we don't need the personal, this is what I did in the last 2 months, that sort of email. So I would not get their expectations or hopes up when they're distant from the chapter and contact them now until we know what the criteria is my point.
No, I'm agreed. But remember, our deadline is approaching. Today is 21st. We have 5 more days. So I hope everyone actively looks at it, thinks about it. And Mike, can you quickly get an executive committee meeting and send out to executive committee for some time, Sunday, Saturday. And please, guys, give that a priority because this is important. And let's decide that because everyone keeps saying, oh, I can't make it. Well, this has to be done, then who should do it?
Okay, I'd like to also remind that website, even though we'd love it perfect, it can be a work in progress. So if it's not finalized, that's okay. We can keep changes going every month. Okay?
Exactly. And I asked her if we can archive because also I don't want newcomer to see, oh, we are just current. We could archive if it's possible the old materials which we don't want as first thing on a like cluttering up the blog post or anything else. We could put in archive so that people know we are an old chapter. We have been working in function since continuity of our thing. So that is important. So we think of everything and let's get together again. Mike will send out an email and a possible time we can meet. And third thing is I wanted to talk about book club. So I have kept the book club. I do send out the email. Last time people had complained when last year I did a survey that, oh, now I want in person. I'm tired of Zoom and blah, blah. And so when I have to book a room at the library. Nobody showed up. I went there, set up the room. Nobody showed up. Nobody had the courtesy to even say I won't be there. So, it's like a thankless job. Why should I waste so much time if people, and they want to be on the list? But guys, at least once in a year attend it or say respond to my email. That is like frustrating, I'm telling you. So I have kept it alive because I love reading books. And the new book that the second quarter is called Service Berry. I have read it. It's a beautiful book. She's a very good writer. We have read her previous book, Braiding Sweetgrass, and it was a lovely book. Everyone loved it. This is a very short book, like a very thin, slim book, and you will finish it in one sitting. It's so small, and the idea is so beautiful. Like, it's just lovely. Even if you're not part of the book club, read it on your own sometime. It'll give you so much pleasure and insight. So I would suggest that is on the last Saturday of this month. Again, I have tentatively left as scheduled as in person. It be at the library. But if people write to me and say, no, let's do it on Zoom, then I'll do it on Zoom. But if people just don't respond, don't even acknowledge, oh, I got it, I won't be, they can just say that. Nobody does that. So I would expect people to at least respond and show me your idea, what you want in person or on Zoom. I'm willing to do. For me, I read the book. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. That's your point. So, but the book club is alive. Okay, that's the end of book club rant.
Jayashri, just one question. Are you saying it's this Saturday? The meeting is this
No,
Saturday?
no. It's on in June. We do every quarter.
Oh, okay.
So
Last Saturday of
March,
June.
June, September, and the last one we do earlier, December, because people get busy with Christmas. So the last quarter is done earlier, but others I'm trying to do last Saturday of the month. So this will be in June and it will be on 29th of June.
Thank you.
And where is it going to be, in Plano or where?
Yeah, like a Plano library, because I'm a Plano resident. So small rooms like 7 to 8, one that people can sit is I can book if I know from ahead. 2 days ahead you have to book, I can do it free. But if there are larger groups, I can book, but that is $100 for 2 hours.
Yeah, I don't think we had that problem just yet.
Yeah, that's not our problem. But
Uh,
our future meeting sometime, chapter meeting if we can do. So
That was-
yes, Chip in Plano Library.
So thank you so much for the insights, Jayashree. And I did find that book on Audible, FYI. Yeah, it sounds like it's a really good read. I'm going to definitely try this time. I know I haven't made it so far, but
It's okay.
yeah. So are we up to the final thing in our reports? I was just going to say I'm planning to organize a meeting to have a meal and just fun and camaraderie. I was suggesting a brunch, maybe a Saturday noontime brunch or Sunday. Would anybody like to give me opinions about that idea?
Well, I would love it.
Oh,
Yes.
great.
2 thumbs
Okay.
up.
Okay, so we got two, you guys two are in Plano. We got one in Fort Worth.
Lisa, where do you live?
I live in Uptown area.
Oh, okay. You've got all the good brunch places there.
Yes.
I think
But
we're
I
going
don't
down
usually
your
go
way.
to those.
Oh, so
I
many
mean
options.
Capel.
Okay, well, we're all over the place. This might be something where we could just move it around to different parts of town.
That'd be lovely.
Okay, thanks for the support. Do you feel like a month from now, like toward the end of June, maybe not the book club day, or maybe we could combine it with the book club day? I don't know.
Exactly. Even Plano has very good eating places.
I love
I
that
have been to the
downtown.
south side chips. I know it's very good.
I think you also
Huh.
have 5 days to pick a save the date at least
Yeah.
for the newsletter.
Right, that is my goal. Okay. What do you think about this, Jayashree? Just to happen to combine it?
Yeah, I
mean-
don't mind. I will love it.
Okay, I love that idea, actually. It's efficient and might draw people for one or the other, and then they'll do
Yeah.
both. Okay. If you guys from Plano or anybody who knows some areas around that library, or if there's a restaurant with a back room, I know La Madeleine has a meeting room that's free. If there's someplace we could combine, I don't know, or just be next door. Think about that. I would be open to suggestions because I don't know the area very well.
Yeah, Madeline, my other book club, we used to meet at Madeline and we used to reserve they have that book room free. We always use that. I think also Pandora's also has, we've gone there once or twice, but I don't know the Plano one has it or not.
Okay.
A room to book. You can book.
Okay. Well, we can talk offline and figure this out.
Yeah.
So that's the goal. Everybody figure out what you need to say for the newsletter. Paula she's asking everybody to please put in their reports by the 26th also. Is that Monday? I don't have it written down, but she wanted it this weekend.
Yeah.
I have a question. I don't know if this is for the entire meeting. It's more of an executive committee question, but it's relevant to the newsletter and the deadline. So should I go ahead and ask it, or should I
Yeah,
wait?
go ahead.
Okay. It's basically, that the bi-weekly Federal Defense Coordination Call, a fancy name for the activism call that Climate Reality National hosts, had a good meeting. I think they've had a lot of good meetings, and the one last night, I think it was last night, right, Mike? You were
Yeah,
there.
it was. I missed it because I had something else going
I
on.
went to a little bit the second
It was
half.
good. And they had a lot of action items. I think I emailed them around to the executive committee. Hopefully you got them.
Yeah.
But I think it would be appropriate if it's still timely. We'll have to see, what the status of this big beautiful bill or big brutal bill is at that time. But if there is a sanctioned, an authorized climate reality national action item of some sort, I would love to see the newsletter include, something like that. And also if there's a blurb from Jeremy Lisker or National, he has some periodic updates that he and they send out in emails. We may want to make sure that's in our newsletter for our members.
Are you telling us to find that out and tell Paula? Because you
No,
can
I'm
tell
just
Paula
wondering
that.
if it's appropriate in your opinion.
Yes, it is. I don't want to interrupt you, Chip. Last time, remember, all the sites that Jim Lisker had said it's available to anyone. So I had sent it to Paula, and she had included all that. So yes, you can send it to Paula.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea because I think people want something to do, but they want you to tell them what to do. That's the thing about people. They, make it easy
No,
for
it's
them.
there. Yeah, it's there. You do it if you want to.
I hope you've all called your congressperson. I've called them a lot. They know me. And I do think, this is the critical time right now. So I really don't know whether it'll still be relevant to have that action then, but there will be something that we can include as something action oriented probably. So let's keep an eye on that and let's all try to, think about what would be the most appropriate thing, and then Paula can consider it.
What do you think about having, I don't know, the direct link to the National Defense Call? Because I honestly, last night I was looking for an email about it and I couldn't find it. It took me a while. I just thought it would be really nice to have
So
that easy.
you have to register and then they send you the link.
No, I'm talking about just seeing when and where. I found an old email from February and actually the links worked. It was the
Oh.
same Zoom link, but I couldn't find a climate reality email about it. And maybe I was looking for the wrong
Okay.
thing. I would just think make it easy. Sometimes I don't know these things are happening because I have so much email. And if we had it in our newsletter, it'd be great.
Yeah,
I'll-
something is, I don't know what is going wrong because now one time I did receive the email from
Yeah, me
Ross
too.
about the meeting, the executive meeting. This time I didn't, and so Mike, luckily he attended, otherwise I didn't even know there was a meeting and when was it the call was. So probably Ross misses mine or what happens, I don't know.
Well, maybe they're run by volunteers like us and they are not perfect.
But this
It's
is their
possible.
job. Ross's
Yeah.
job is to do it.
Oh.
And they are paid for that.
I
They
got
are
in
not
any case,
volunteers.
I
would
got
love
it
to
as a
see things like
calendar
that.
item, so it's like in perpetuity until I delete.
Well, that's another thing. Why isn't it on our calendar? It could be on our climate reality calendar.
She's still in the process of doing it. So I think once it's up and going, it should be there.
Are you talking about Jigna?
Yeah.
She's going to be updating the calendar for us.
She doesn't
On my
do, although
website.
she should do it, but she has to be reminded. That's what I've noticed.
Because we will need to change our regular meeting date on there for
So
sure.
she, as a person who's in charge, she should do it automatically. Once the newsletter goes out, she should update everything that is on the newsletter. But either she forgets or she waits for an invitation. That's what I've noticed. So
Okay.
we
Well, you
have
know
to
I'll be
let her
happy to
know.
get with her and follow up with that,
Yeah.
the calendar, because I know we're transitioning to a new website. I think it'll be right in, should be. I have one little report. I know we're going over now. So does any,
Yeah, go ahead.
good there?
Go for
Okay,
it.
so on the National Defense Call, and I wanted to follow up with Chip there to make sure I got that right. But the bad news was the IRA funding is definitely looking like it's getting repealed, like all of it is what it sounded like to me. And then so the big thing was contacting our representatives, and just sending out to our friends. We got to make these calls. The good news was that our our president, who wanted to label all the 501c3s that disagree with him as terrorist organizations, I guess that got taken out of the bill. So
for now, yeah.
for now, so when we do
Just
make
let
our
it back in.
calls,
Yeah.
so anyway, that was the good news. And then my other thing was I had a meeting with Roz, who is from National. She's over our region, Southeast Regional for Climate Reality. And so they're kind of scaling back, like, I guess strategic plans are now like annual goals. So 2025 goals was the most of the point of our meeting. And so I know I put out an email, and Chip is going to be enlisted in helping me, but just very briefly, I'll give you an example of what we're doing. So earlier, a couple months ago, we had, I worked with Jayashree on this, the 2025 chapter goals. National wanted us to do things in writing, so we did that. One of the issues is stopping fossil fuel expansion. I'll just use that as an example. So what they're looking for our specific goals is just, hey, let's word out what we would like to do for that issue. Working in local communities, working more at state level, and then what are the steps to achieve specific goals, and then who can we partner with? So it's 3 steps: goals, steps to achieve the goal, and who can we partner with to do that. That's what I'm working on, and I will just stop right there.
I think we missed one of them. I don't know about the rest of you, but you froze up for me. So it's you froze up for a second, Mike, at least on my computer. So
Mine too.
the 3, you've got what is the goal? Who can we partner with? And what was the third one?
Steps to.
Oh yeah, that's the strategy part. How do you get from point A to point B?
So, and then, and how that looks on our new website when that gets, it's going to be much different than the vast, strategic plan that we currently have on there. We can archive that when it comes to it. We can, have a separate link for that. But either way, I need to go in like 5 minutes, everybody.
Yeah,
So
same here.
Do we have a date for the executive committee meeting?
we do not yet.
Okay.
I don't think everybody responded to that email, but
No, not yet, I guess.
we'll follow up. I will follow up with you all.
Thank you.
I'm going to do my best to make it, but I just, top level, and I think maybe we can even give email ideas, but I think we need to define, in a time of resistance and protest, what we can do that way. Are we able to participate in boycotts, or advocate them, like for Tesla? A lot of the protest actions like that have happened in Dallas that I participated in, we didn't do so under a Climate Reality Project banner, but had the basic, protect the environment type stuff. But I noticed that Citizens Climate Lobby and others were handing out bookmarks and things like that. So I think
wow.
it's great. Yeah, I think there's another one on June 14th for those of you who aren't aware.
Okay. I got a lot of swag. I've got swag and banners here, so keep me in the loop.
Guys, we are coming on to 1.5 hour limit. Please,
Gotta go. Yep.
let's wrap up quickly.
That's it. I just wanted to, I think we need to clarify with National if they're having any thoughts. It seems like they are shifting toward more of a more bold permission for lobbying. So if there are any new guidelines on that, that would be very helpful to know before we agree on our strategy or our goals.
That's great to hear. What have we got to lose? Yeah. All right.
Okay, what's next on the agenda?
I think we say goodbye.
Hey,
Okay, so
Jeffrey has
Jeffrey.
something.
Yeah,
Yes,
Jeffrey does
Don't
the
forget
closing.
about Jeffrey. I've been waiting
I'm
for
so
this
sorry.
moment.
It's right there at 8:05. I wrote.
Well, I had a longer one, but I picked a shorter one. It's called The Maples by Marie Howe. I asked the stand of maples behind the house, how should I live my life? They said, shh, shh, shh. How should I live? I asked, and the leaves seemed to ripple and gleam. A bird called from a branch in its own tongue, and from a branch across the yard, another bird answered. A squirrel scrambled up a trunk, then along the length of a branch. Stand still, I thought. See how long you can bear that. Try to stand still, if only for a few moments, drinking light, breathing.
Beautiful. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
You know, there's something similar, Jeffrey, is in that book, Service Berry. It's so beautiful. It's so poetic. It's like a poem. If you read that
Wow.
book, it's so beautiful.
Yeah,
I've got the book. I probably won't be traveling to Plano, especially since somebody tried to steal my car and broke it, and it's in the
In
shop, and I
Plano?
don't know when
Oh,
it'll be ready.
no.
So I have no car.
Oh,
Oh no.
Where was your passage from again, Jeffrey?
Marie Howe, Howe, and it's called The Maples.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
Thanks,
Oh,
Jeffrey.
hey, good to see you guys. Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Dan. Beautiful.
Thank you, everyone. I'll stop the recording, Mike.
I'm now. Yeah. Have a good night.
Peace
Okay.
Good
out.
night.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.